Welcome everyone to tonight's public forum, the 18th of May 2026. Before we start the public forum, I must tell you about recording of the public forum in accordance with the Local Government General Regulations 2021 and Council's Code of Meeting Practice. This meeting will be video recorded and live streaming will be made public available on Albury City's website. Attendance of this meeting is taken as consent to a person's image and or voice being recorded and broadcast. Any person who does not consent may choose to leave the meeting prior to its commencement. Speakers are reminded to refrain from making defamatory comments or disclosing personal information about any individual without consent. Albury City accepts no liability for any defamatory, discriminatory or offensive comments made during the meeting. Responsibility for such comments rests solely with the individuals who make them. The views expressed by speakers are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Albury City. Recordings of this meeting will be retained on Council's website for at least 12 months or for the remainder of the Council term, whichever is the longer period. Recordings are not an official record of the meeting, only the confirmed minutes or the official record. The live stream and recording are copyright protected and owned by Albury City. The meeting must not be recorded, copied and reproduced or shared by any person without the prior written consent of the Council in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Parts of this meeting that are closed to the public in accordance with Section 10A of the Local Government Act 1993 will not be live streamed or recorded. That's longer than the public forum. Okay. Welcome everyone, and certainly conflict of interest declarations. Mr. McGrath?
None received, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
The public forum at least.
Thank you. Okay, well, we'll start off the public forum. PF 3.1, we have David Harrison, CM 10.1, notice of motion, inclusion of the Australian national flag and Albury City email signatures speaking against the motion. Mr. Harrison, you come up to the lectern, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councillors and staff for the opportunity to speak tonight. It's not often I get into the big smoke these days, so I'm glad to be here. I am a resident of Cora and, full disclosure here, a sitting councillor in Federation Shire, although I stress I'm not representing Federation Council in any way today. These are my own personal thoughts. But I will say our Shire is in the midst of discussing flag-related issues such as this, and I would like to pass on some of those experiences to you tonight. And I guess my experience is be very careful what you wish for. From the outset, I would like to say that there is no doubt in my mind that our national flag is and always should be the accepted primary flag, and that flag is strong enough to stand alone. More importantly, it is also strong enough not to need to be included absolutely everywhere. Our Australian flag is many things, but it is never needy or paranoid, and it should be never used in that tense. The use of flags must not be competitive nor binary. There are situations which require single flags, multiple flags, or even no flags, and we must be mature enough to recognise them and accept them all. And for those reasons alone, there is no need to include the national flag in a statement on recognition of First Nations cultures and peoples. Adding the image of the national flag doesn't enhance this acknowledgement in any way, and it could be easily argued it detracts from it. I can tell you that the resulting conversation certainly has the potential to. But let's be very clear, this isn't about flags, as the motion suggests. It's actually about a tiny little image of a flag tucked away at the bottom of the correspondence. I doubt you could get more petty. So I ask, why would you even go there? Why would you make a simple email acknowledgement which contains two small images of First Nations flags into an issue like this? I'm sure the motivation behind this motion is genuine, but I must admit to being somewhat bemused by it, to be honest. What I can tell you as a resident of a nearby shire is that little good can come from this discussion, especially if it progresses to public consultation. And our First Nations community is most at risk. Even a cursory glance at the comments of the Baltimore Mail article last week shows that these issues are polarising and have a high potential to insult First Nations residents. I can unfortunately reassure you of that possibility. Just Google Federation Shire flags and see what comes up if you don't believe me. Closing the gap data shows that our Aboriginal community has many struggles still ahead. Let's at least let them have full recognition of 60,000 years of prior culture without imposing our own insecurities on that by pushing the national flag image in there as well. Acknowledgement of prior custodianship is a celebration, not a cringe moment. The Albury City Council acknowledgement meets all accepted protocols. I can find none that include all three flags, and forms a small part of what are now a series of hard-won social norms, which I fear are now increasingly under pressure. One could ask, what is next? This is actually a line in the sand moment for Albury City. I also make the point that I'm honoured to be able to stand in front of the four flags in your chamber tonight. I appreciate that. I wish you luck if you do anything other than knock this on the head now, tonight, because I can reassure you that in this increasingly polarised world we live in, a public consultation process will not be pretty. I ask you to please not support this motion tonight, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Question, councillors? No, you're all clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 3.2, Helen Newman, CM 10.1, notice of motion, inclusion of the Australian flag and Albury City email signatures, speaking against the motion. Thank you, Ms. Newman.
Councillors, staff, members of the public, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'd like to first acknowledge that we're standing, sitting, playing, working on Wiradjuri land. My name is Helen Newman and I come here to speak against the notice of motion for inclusion of the Australian national flag in Albury City email signatures. I'm not aligned with any group or party, and I'm simply addressing you as a concerned resident of Albury City. I'd like to begin by stating that I recognise the Australian national flag is a respected national symbol, which should be, and indeed is, displayed appropriately and with due respect by Albury City. I oppose the addition of it to Council's email signatures for the following reasons. Inclusion of the Australian national flag on Council email signatures does not align with Australian national flag protocol mandates, so there's absolutely no legal necessity for it to be there. The hard-worked Albury City Reconciliation Action Plan is clear in stating that Council's strong commitment to reconciliation with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of our city and our region. The RAP is a positive, and I quote, step forward for our city in progressing meaningful reconciliation with First Nations people. My question is, how will inserting the Australian national flag into that dedicated reconciliation space on council emails help develop and strengthen those relationships? As noted by Albury City CEO, this debate, and I quote again, sits within a broader and sensitive context that warrants careful consideration. If the motion were to be adopted, the question arises what its impact may be on Albury City's ongoing reconciliation journey. If adopted, Council will need to decide where the Australian national flag is to be placed. In front of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags, after the Australian and Torres Strait Islander flags, above them, below them, between them? Will local Indigenous elders be consulted on this? With the myriad issues Council is currently facing, this particular debate appears to be a needless diversion and waste of energy and resources. Ultimately, since there is no Australian national flag protocol mandating the inclusion of the Australian national flag on Council email signatures, one is left to wonder what the intent may be of those in favour of such a move. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? No, you're all good. Thank you. PF 3.3, Trish Seminara, CM 10.1, notice of motion inclusion of the Australian flag in Albury City's email signature, speaking against the motion. Thank you, Trish.
Mr Mayor, councillors, members of the community. Yaman yere gira, yere parakaku, yangandaru, 60 years, yerebo. My name is Trish Seminara. I have lived in Albury for 60 years. I'm also a part of the Aboriginal Advisory Group that works predominantly, continually and culturally alongside Albury City Council. Albury City Council has built a strong relationship with the local Aboriginal community. This relationship has been built on trust, communication, transparency, understanding, acceptance, and consultation. I feel that the motion to put the Australian flag next to the existing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags will achieve nothing and will result in a breakdown of the existing respectful relationship within the Aboriginal community that Council has with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Advisory Committee. The Reconciliation Action Plan that Albury City Council has built with the Advisory Committee has been achieved with hands-on meetings, discussions, and genuine round-the-table yarning. If accepted, this will effect further open and honest discussions, and a breakdown in trust will result. This work has been positive and uplifting. It has also assisted Council in approaching sensitive cultural matters and involvement of the broader community to see how Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have a deep connection to country. The number of successful relationships built along the way has been a true reflection of our progress. I have spoken to the broader community and elders over the weekend and today. The reflection from the deep cultural conversations had are, and I carry the blessing this evening, of traditional owner, Aunty Edna Stewart, 15 elders and 67 community members. By placing the Australian flag next to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flag will diminish the real purpose of our acknowledgement to country. There is no inclusivity in putting the Australian flag next to the flags of the traditional owners of this land, which Albury City Council sits on, as this will demonstrate no reconciliation or respect for our very own acknowledgement. The acknowledgement is there to recognise First Nations people as the traditional custodians of this land. The flags that represent the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander acknowledgement have no political agenda, and it is not about nationalism or a political symbol. However, by placing the Australian flag next to it, it will change the meaning of the acknowledgement, which will take the relationship, respect, and cultural understanding between Council and the Aboriginal Advisory and Elders Group to another level. This being lack of trust, breakdown of current agreements, and cultural respect and understanding. After all, we know we are all Australians, but most people who come into our area don't. They don't know they're traditional owners of the land, and some of them don't even know the ones that live here. Having the current email signature shows clear understanding and significance of the Aboriginal lands that we are on. the Aboriginal flag is a powerful emblem of our identity, resilience, and unity. It holds deep spiritual and cultural significance. With its three colours representing Aboriginal peoples, the red earth, red ochre, and a spiritual relationship to the land, and the sun, the giver of life, and the protector. There's nothing in that that shows stance. And the Torres Strait Islander flag, land, sea, and peace. At the centre of the Torres Strait Islander flag is a dari. That represents the Torres Strait Islander people, and a 5-pointed star that represents the 5 major island groups and the role of navigation in the sea of faring culture. Part of the Australian flags, in particular the Union Jack, is offensive to Aboriginal people as its history lies with the British who colonised Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to the very existence that we were known as flora and fauna, not people and no identity. The other part combines the cross of St George from England, St Andrews, Scotland, and St Patrick's Island, no reflection of the very people whom this land has been occupied for over 64,000 years. How does this create unity with the Aboriginal elders and the community? Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people never ceded to sovereignty. They never voluntarily handed over their land, authority, or right to self-governance to the British Crown. It is a foundational truth that our ownership of Australia continues to exist today. I do not see this motion as a genuine one that is grounded in inclusivity or reconciliation. And how does this motion support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in our community? And one last question, why now? Thank you. Thank you for listening. Oh,
Thanks. Trish, there's a few questions. Councillor
Yep.
Callaghan.
Thank you. And firstly, I'd like to thank David and Helen also for their presentations. But Trish, really, thank you so much for your tenacity and commitment to community for the best interests of First Nations people. But hearing you speak to, you have the best interest for Albury City Council and our entire community at heart. Firstly, you explained a little bit about meeting with the First Nations community. I was hoping you could go over those numbers a little again for me and just a little about what those conversations were about.
As an advisory group, we meet quarterly. We haven't met for 3 months. Our next meeting is on the 26th, so we have not had a discussion as an advisory committee about the motion that has been tabled. Today, I facilitate an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women's group at Albury-Wodonga Health Service. And today we had Annie Edna and 14 elders there who were present. We talked about my discussions tonight, and I would not have talked without the permission of traditional owner Annie Edna Stewart. Annie Edna was of the impression that the Australian flag existed on the document somewhere, but wasn't aware that this would sit alongside our acknowledgement. So on last week, there was a Dirramalong meeting, and that is a Wiradjuri elders meeting. That is for Wiradjuri people only, unless you're an invited guest. There was somebody from council who went across and had some discussions about it. There were 4 people from our advisory group there. That does not constitute our advisory group. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. Trish, I appreciate your time.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor Mack, and thank you for your presentation, Trish. That was going to be my question. Has the Aboriginal Advisory Committee met to discuss this in full? Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. The answer was no, Trish?
Yes, no.
Thank you. just didn't have your mic on at the time.
Ah.
It's very tricky. Thank you. Thanks, Trish. Thanks for your presentation, and we'll consider it. Thank you. Okay, we're up to 3.4. Mr. Graham Doxey, CM 10.1, notice of motion, inclusion of the Australian flag and the signature, speaking for motion. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors, CEO. I acknowledge the three previous speakers, not that I agree with what they've got to say. And there's one thing I'd like to have confirmed first. In the briefing notes, it talked about the Aboriginal Advisory Committee has been advised and supports it. I'm hearing something different tonight.
Mr. McGrath?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just looking for my notes. I think what it refers to, it does say recent engagement with the Aboriginal Advisory Committee, but I did understand that it wasn't a formal meeting of the committee. It was a gathering, as was alluded to, and some informal feedback was sought, noting that the Advisory Committee meeting proper is on next week.
Julie said.
Thank you for this opportunity for me to be able to speak tonight in support of the motion. This motion is not divisive. It is not divisive, as has been suggested. It is inclusive. Inclusive. Council already flies three flags at the front of the council building. The three flags are also flown here in the chamber. At the Albury War Memorial, the three flags are flown. When I was on council, we went through quite clearly the flag situation. This is a slightly different matter. I want to focus onto that. I cannot see why not on the council email. It's such a small thing, but an important thing. It supports the pull up here that says reconciliation. It talks about the other flags that are here and the other flags that are flown around the city. Before council started the major refurbishment of the Albury War Memorial, I spoke with Auntie Nancy. I was then the RSL president. There'd never been an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander plaque at the War Memorial before to acknowledge their service. I spoke with Auntie Nancy in relation to talking to her community about having a plaque at the War Memorial acknowledging their support and service to Australia, men and women of the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander community. They went away, they discussed it over a couple of months, they came back with a proposal with the two flags, but they wanted the Australian flag in the middle. That was Auntie Nancy and her community at the time. Obviously, things have changed. And that was the first time that an Aboriginal flag was placed, an Aboriginal plaque was placed at the Albury War Memorial. I'm not aware anywhere around in the country there is another plaque that gives that privilege to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community. Now, the decision that came from Auntie Nancy and her community wanted the Australian flag on the top of the plaque. An inclusive decision. That plaque has now been placed in the first alcove at the Albury War Memorial, because that's how far that organisation goes back. I want to declare that I'm also a life member of the Australian National Flag Association. I'm a flag Nazi. I like to see the Australian flag being flown. I'm a life member of the Order of Australia Association. But put simply, I encourage councillors to support this motion. It is not divisive. It is not divisive. It really is inclusive. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Question, Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor Mack, and a question through to you, Graham, and thank you for your presentation. First of all, just a statement about the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander signature appearing on the letterheads and the email signature. As far as I am aware, that's been there for about 2 years. Since you were last on council, but prior to that, the symbol on all stationery emails was Albury with a whole, like a open flower, nothing to do with any national flags or symbols, because as a rule, an email signature is about that particular city. And the email signature with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags is in recognition of the pride that the city holds in the reconciliation process. So I'm just trying to distinguish and ask you the question that, are you aware it's not about flags, it's about something else that's...
Yeah, the term flag came out, and it probably came out of the Border Mail. But it's part of the two separate things, I believe. The flags are, Albury City has resolved the flag situation, all right, after much angst over that. This is a symbol, and I see no reason why it cannot be applied. It is a small thing, but from my point of view, it shows reconciliation, in my opinion.
Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor Mack, and thank you for your presentation this evening, Graham. Firstly, I'd like to start by congratulating you on all the fabulous work that you have actually done up at Monument Hill, and with the inclusion of the Aboriginal flag up at Monument. I know that was really quite contentious at the time, and I really do want to thank you for your good work there. I suppose as a follow-on from what Councillor Baker is referring to, this is about the acknowledgement of country on our signature, not about how we display flags so beautifully in council chambers, but also out the front of our building and in QE2 Square, much like at Monument Hill. This is about the recognition and acknowledgement of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, hence why there are only 2 flags. I'm just checking that I'm sure about that understanding about that it's about the acknowledgement, and that's why those 2 flags are there. Clarification.
Did you want to comment on that?
No, thanks.
No, okay. Did you have a question on that one?
Yeah, just seeking clarification that he was aware of that it was a different, it's not just about the flag, it's about the actual acknowledgement of country and the association of the Australian flag in that. And I think it's
Yeah.
yes.
Did you have a comment on that?
Oh.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Doxey. That's fine. Thank you for your presentation. Okay, we're moving right along to PF 3.5, Tika Poodle. Notice of motion 10.2, fostering a welcoming, inclusive and safe community. Speaking for the motion.
Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respect to their elders, past and present. I also extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. We acknowledge their continued connection to land, waters, culture, and community. My name is Tika Poodle. I work for STARS Albury Wodonga as a Rural and Regional Community Development Project Officer. I also represent the community as myself come from refugee background, and I have been working since the first day of my arrival with the refugee community, multicultural community, as well as the mainstream communities. Good morning, mayors and councillors. I truly strong community, a truly strong community is one where person feels safe, welcomed, and valued. I'm here today to speak in support of this motion and in support of Council's continued commitment to fostering an inclusive and connected Albury. Our refugee and migrant communities are an integral part of who we are as a city. They contribute across essential sectors such as healthcare, aged care, agriculture, manufacturing, and small business, helping to sustain our local economy and meet workforce needs. But this is not only about economic contribution, it is about people, families who have chosen Albury as their home, people who bring resilience, diverse perspective, and a strong desire to belong and give back. They volunteer, support local initiatives, raise children, and contribute to a vibrant and culturally rich community. For this contribution to thrive, people must feel safe and included. That is why Council's leadership is so important. Through inclusive programs, cultural events, and accessible community spaces, you create opportunities for connection, understanding, and respect. When people feel welcomed, they participate more fully in community life. When they feel safe, they are able to contribute with confidence. And when communities are inclusive, they become stronger, more cohesive, and more resilient. Supporting this motion is not just about continuing existing efforts. It is about reinforcing the values of respect, belonging, and unity that define a healthy and forward-looking city. By maintaining this commitment, you are helping to build a community where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, a community that is not only diverse, but also welcoming, inclusive, and safe for all. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Tika. Any questions? Councillor Callum?
Thank you, Mac, and thank you for your presentation, Tika, and thank you for everything that you do with our multicultural community. I know you do a lot out at Murrumbina. The first thing you said was a safe community, and I suppose from your perspective and that commitment that we would like to make again this evening, how do you feel that the community feels, the multicultural community feel in our community? Is it safe and inclusive and inviting as you'd hope?
So far, Albury Wodonga is our safe home. And whenever I work with the refugee community, and even with the many, I work in the residential house so long, I didn't feel excluded. I feel inclusive, and also people feel really inclusive. And the program going on, and the initiative Albury City Council has brought forward is really welcoming for the community who are resettled in Albury Wodonga.
Thank you, Tika.
Councillor King?
Thank you, Tika. Great to see you again. Thank you for your presentation. Part of the motion talks about recognising elected representatives to lead by example in both words and actions. as you look around the councillor group here, are you familiar with councillors really living by those actions in your experience in terms of being inclusive and fostering that on behalf of our community?
Tough question, Tigger.
Yeah, there are a lot of challenges as well, and the challenges, but I don't think there is any complaint for the opportunity that we receives, and I see generally communities are working hard to make their lives and also to contribute to the local community. When we just go to hospital, we can see dozens of refugee community who have been working. When you go to healthcare sector, I can see dozens of people, nurses, even doctors now. That means that they have been working hard to make their living and also helping the communities, mainstream communities, with positivity.
Okay. Thanks, Tigger. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, our final speaker, Meg Sheehan, TM 10.2, notice of motion fostering welcoming, inclusive and safe communities, speaking for the motion. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors, staff and community members. My name is Meg Sheehan. I'm speaking in support of Councillor Hudson's motion because inclusion is not a decorative value or a line in a strategy document. It's a foundational community infrastructure. Albury City already has policy framework and strategies aligned with the principles of this motion. Towards Albury, 2050 describes Albury as both a caring and a leading community, diverse, welcoming, safe, and focused on well-being with leadership that is proactive, engaged, and accountable to the people it serves. So the question tonight is not whether these values exist on paper, because they do. The question is what happens when those values are challenged. The motion speaks about people of all backgrounds being respected, valued, and able to participate fully in community life. I ask councillors to give particular attention to the word fully. Full participation means people can show up without diminishing who they are, without calculating risk, without wondering if they'll be made a target. Full participation cannot exist while people are managing discrimination as the price of entry. If community members must hide or shrink parts of themselves to be accepted, they are not participating fully, they are simply being tolerated. And tolerance is not the same as inclusion. Most often, it is just exclusion served with better manners. I would like to draw councillors' attention to a recent New South Wales parliamentary report that has direct relevance to this motion and to Albury. The report is titled Measures to Combat Right-Wing Extremism in New South Wales. It was published in April 2026 by the New South Wales Legislative Assembly Committee on Law and Safety, following a parliamentary inquiry into right-wing extremism and the broader threat it poses to public safety, social cohesion and targeted communities. I raise this because Albury is not mentioned in passing. It appears in the report in multiple contexts. First, the report names a neo-Nazi demonstration at a queer film festival in Albury in 2024 as one example of right-wing extremist demonstrations. That was an event I coordinated in a former professional role. Second, the report returns to the Albury Queer Film Festival, not simply as an incident, but as a systems lesson. It is referenced in the context of the need for police and public institutions to recognise, name, and respond to hate speech and hate crimes against the LGBTIQ+ communities, and recognise how they actually experience them. Third, the report identifies regional New South Wales as an area of concern, noting that right-wing extremists are increasingly recruiting in and gathering resources from regional communities. It specifically names Albury as one of those regional centres where right-wing extremists connected with or inspired by neo-Nazi networks have emerged. The report makes clear that far-right extremism poses a threat to public safety, social cohesion, and democratic values. It also places this activity within a broader pattern of white supremacist ideology, which does not target one community in isolation. It feeds on racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, transphobia, and misogyny, and it uses these prejudices to divide communities. This is not an inner city issue being projected onto Albury. It's now a matter of public parliamentary record. Furthermore, just last Friday, the organisation connected to this extremist activity was listed under Commonwealth law as a prohibited hate group. That should matter to every elected representative considering this motion. What councillors choose to challenge, dismiss, fund, acknowledge, or remain silent about tells the community what is acceptable. I often reflect, if a neo-Nazi group had targeted the Albury Gold Cup or a local football grand final, would the response have looked different? Would it have been treated as a marginal issue or recognised immediately as an attack on community safety and public life? When I speak about inclusion, I'm not only speaking about LGBTQI+ people. I'm speaking about the kind of civic leadership that matters to First Nations people, multicultural and faith communities, women, disabled people, young people, and everyone whose belonging is too often debated before it is defended. Communities notice when institutions are quick to celebrate inclusion in theory, but hesitant to acknowledge the people living its consequences in practice. This is particularly evident when council is prepared to debate symbolic expressions of belonging while remaining publicly silent on actual threats to belonging. A welcoming city is not measured by what it says about itself. It is measured by who feels safe enough to stay, visible enough to participate, and valued enough to belong. Because belonging is measured by what we're willing to defend. So after tonight's discussion about symbols, identity, safety, and belonging, I ask councillors to return to the wording of Councillor Hudson's motion. It asks whether people in Albury can participate fully in community life and whether elected representatives are prepared to actively foster inclusion, connection, respect and belonging and lead by example in both words and actions. I ask Councillor to support Councillor Hudson's motion and to treat it as a leadership commitment, not a symbolic statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Question from Councillor Bullman? No, your button's pressed. If it was, Councillor Glycan, question.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Sheehan. Can I ask, you made reference to a New South Wales inquiry or a report. I'm sorry, I haven't got the wording for whatever that was. Can I ask, do you make a submission to that inquiry?
Did I make a submission to that? No.
Councillor King.
Thank you, Ms. Mean and Shane, sorry. And you did bring back memories of that awful incident. I remember with the Queer Film Festival, and I was mayor at the time, and I remember sort of feeling a little helpless at the time. What can we do? What can we do? Do you recall that council did make some public? We banded together with community. I remember we filmed a video. We got, I think Tika was there. So we had our multicultural community, Yarni Ruth, even Father Peter McLeod Miller, the police, and we recorded some videos, and we had our staff and our team really standing up and standing. It was certainly during Pride Month, I think, my recollection is. Were you aware of that, or did that get lost in the noise of the trauma of what was going on?
Oh, I was very aware of that. And so was the LGBTQI plus community at the time. And yes, it was during Pride Month. But what happened was never mentioned. It was just a photo of people standing in support of the LGBTQA plus community, but there was no engagement with the LGBTQA plus community themselves when that happened. And a lot of members, and I can speak on behalf of the community, did not feel included or centred in that process at all.
Thank you. Question, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you for your presentation this evening, Meg. And firstly, I'd like to start with saying I was absolutely appalled by the actions that we've seen at cinema, but also up at Monument Hill. And I would be fair to say we don't appreciate or expect or want to see that type of behaviour within our community again. And as far as I'm concerned, it's not welcome here in Albury. Disappointing to hear it in the measure to combat right-wing extremists on safety. But the reality is we're there for a reason. And you mentioned about full participation in the community. And I suppose learning from those events, you've just mentioned some ways about people communicating with certain groups. But is there any other suggestions you might have for Albury City Council to be more inclusive?
There's certainly opportunities for advisory committees, which is done throughout Victoria, and opportunities to invite the community to have these conversations with council. To my knowledge, the community has never been invited to have conversations about what is happening in Albury-Wodonga and in the area for them. And what's actually impacting the community on the ground. So that's.
Thanks, next great suggestion.
Councillor Bullard.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. Sure, I just, when ex-Mayor King was just talking about the incident that happened at the film festival and the photo opportunity of many of you subscribers, a photo opportunity for many people without many words. I always have this trepidation that it's something as significant as that incident that happened in Albury, and what you're alluding to is there was no council involvement or nobody approached you, or your group didn't approach the council. I find that a bit hard to believe, because I think something as serious that both parties would be together and working out and looking after each other in that thing. So I just need to get a bit more clarification about the communication lines that may have been open or not open.
The communication lines between the queer community and council.
Especially over that film festival, when Father McLeod and the mayor and a few other people got together. I just want to get some clarification.
Say that there was a former councillor who was at that event who identifies as part of the community, and they made a public statement that they themselves didn't feel safe enough to step forward and speak up about what happened to people on council or internally.
Just trying to get to some of the nitty gritty of it, because to me, I would be very concerned as a councillor. No, I wasn't at the event. I was secondhand. I'm only getting what you're saying. But to me, as a councillor, I find it quite concerning that nobody has taken any action about what has happened at that event. And we have mechanisms within the organisation to communicate with our groups within the city. And I find that if we didn't take any action, I find it quite appalling. And I think that we need to be, if that's the case, we need to be better at it.
Yeah, and that's my point. You do need to be better at it.
It's a two-way street. Like if there's an issue, and you've alluded to one of the councillors, and it was brought before the whole council, and the operational side of the business needs to be fully informed and engaged. So we've just got to be better at getting the information we need. And I know where you're coming from. We've seen a couple of incidents in the last 12 or 18 months with Corowa and Albury is a couple of events that have been, which we don't put up with, we don't stand for. And I think that we need to be, everybody in the community needs to be better at getting on with these sort of things and looking after our citizens. And we're all equal, everyone's equal in the community, but we just need the information to make sure we get it right.
Worth reading the recommendations that are in the report, and then you'll get all your information there.
Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, a question to our, I believe would be our staff, so the most relevant person able to answer this. My understanding is the situation as relayed by our speaker tonight is essentially a police-related matter. Can I have clarification as to what role local government in New South Wales would have with such an incident? Just to clarify what grounds the state would be responsible for in that situation, in contrast to what local government would be responsible for in New South Wales.
Mr. McGrath.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I would point out that public forum is probably not the appropriate forum to be asking questions of the staff. It's an opportunity for the community to engage with councillors. And then specifically, but in respect to that question, I don't have that information to hand. I'd have to take it on notice. That's the best answer I can give.
Okay, just one question from myself, just to clarify, Ms. Shern, in relation to your comment that there was a former councillor there at the time, would that councillor not have been on council at the time? Is that what I'm hearing, or were they an ex-councillor and were not in the council at that time?
In what respect?
So you said it was a former councillor. Was it a former councillor that was in attendance, or were they a councillor at that time and they were in attendance?
A councillor at that time.
That's to Councillor Bullivant's point that the councillor would have brought that back to the chamber and requested council act on that. It just, from where I sit, that sounds quite unusual.
I wouldn't know. I'm not a councillor.
Yeah. I'm just giving you that information because it's quite unheard of that wouldn't have been acted upon, because the previous council were very vigilant and very proactive and reactive, and yeah, it's a shame. And look, I think to your point, your comments are well heard. Thank you. Councillor Baker, question.
Thank you, Meg, for your presentation. And just before you go, I have just something to add about that incident and feedback coming the other way. I think Meg helped alert the winter solstice to the fact that Danielle Laidley, who was speaking at the solstice, could potentially be a target. And I know council then provided their CCTV screen, and they were amazing in the cooperation, as were the police. So I think there were actions that came out of that film night. Whether enough of a debrief was carried out, maybe it wasn't. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Baker, for that clarification. Thanks, Megan. Quite often there's a breakdown in the communication about what was done, but we're hearing what you're saying, and it's an opportunity to get better lines of communication with LGBTQI communities plus QI, but it's also important to look at all the marginal communities and see what we can do. So thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you for listening to me and putting up with me tonight. Thank you.
No, you're great. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone that's spoken at the public forum, and we'll now get into the business of the Ordinary Council. If anyone needs to leave, they can leave. Otherwise, we'll continue. Okay. Thank you, councillors, and we'll start with the opening affirmation. Councillor Bullivant.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. We gather to represent the people of Albury who have entrusted us with this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, wisdom and common sense. May our personal values give us honesty and courage to serve our community effectively and with respect for all.
Thank you. Acknowledgement to country. Councillor Glacken.
We would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people as the traditional custodians of the land that we meet upon today, and pay our respects to the elders past, present and future, for they hold the memories, culture, tradition and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that contribute to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay. CM2, recording and webcasting of meeting. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice and will be made publicly available on Albury City's website. Attendance to this meeting is taken as consent to being recorded and included in the live stream. Any person who does not consent to being recorded may choose to leave the meeting. Members of the public are reminded to refrain from making defamatory statements or disclosing personal information, noting that Albury City is not responsible for comments made by individuals. Recordings and live streams are protected by copyright and remain the property of Albury City. No part of the meeting may be copied, recorded, reproduced or transmitted without the prior written consent of the Chief Executive Officer. Conflict of Interest Declaration, CM3, Mr McGrath.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. I do have one. It's from Councillor Glacken. It's a non-pecuniary, less than significant conflict that's being declared. The description is that community representation made by a person known to Councillor Glacken. It's in respect of item CM 14.7, the reappointment of Audit Risk and Improvement Committee Independent Member and Chair. The action intended to be taken by Councillor Glacken is to remain in the chamber and participate in the debate and decision.
Advice to meeting?
As there is some planning matters on the agenda, some general advice to the meeting. The Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, Section 10.4, requires a person submitting planning applications or submissions regarding a planning application to disclose any reportable political donation and or gifts to any local councillor or employee of council. Reportable political donations include those of or above $1,000. The disclosure statement forms are available on Council's website, the Customer Service Centre, and at the back of the chamber during meetings. In determining development applications, councillors must consider the relevant planning matters under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. These matters, as set out in section 4.151 of the Act, are detailed in the Council Officer's report. Under section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993, a division must be called for any recommendation relating to a planning decision. A planning decision includes decisions made under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979,
such as those relating to development applications and planning instruments, but excludes orders made under Division 9.3 of Part 9 of that Act.
Thank you, Mr McGrath. We're up to apologies, CM4. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I move that council receive, note and accept the apology of Councillor Cameron and grant leave of absence for the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Glicken.
Thank you. Second that.
Thank you. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Attendance by councillors at meeting by audio visual link. There aren't any. We have no moral minute. Action plans. Thanks, councillors. Councillor Bullman.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I recommend that the following action plan is be received and noted. 1, actions completed since previous meeting for noting only. 2, actions awaiting a response from external parties. 3, actions in progress. And 4, long-term issues more than 3 months.
Thank you, Councillor King.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Bullman. Did you wish to speak to that at all?
No, thank you, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. There appears to be no further debate. I'm happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Okay. Confirmation of previous meetings. CM 7.1 minutes of the council meeting held on Monday, the 20th of April, 2026. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. I'd like to move the recommendation as motion that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 20 April 2026 at 6 p.m. be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Bukowski.
For a second.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken, did you wish to speak to that at all? Okay, there further no questions or debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. CM7 confirmation minutes of previous meetings would appear to be the same thing. 7.2 minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on Tuesday, the 5th of May, 2026. Thank you, councillors. Councillor King.
I move that the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on Tuesday, the 5th of May, 2026 at 6:03 p.m. be confirmed.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Councillor King, did you wish to speak to that at all?
No, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken, did you wish to speak?
No, I was simply wishing to move.
Okay. Okay, there appears to be no further question or debate. Happy to put that motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Questions on notice, CM 8.1, CM 8.2 and CM 8.3. They're noted in the minutes or in the agenda. There's no motion required. Councillor King, did you wish to speak to any of those?
Sorry, I was just going to move that we note them if that was what was required, but
No, not required. Thank you. Any questions about those items? No. Okay, thank you. CM 9 reports from community forums. There are none. CM 10 notices of motion or rescission. CM 10.1 notice of motion inclusion of the Australian national flag and Albury email signatures. Councillor Bukowski.
Thank you. I move that Council A acknowledges the current Albury City email signatures include the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags, reflecting our commitment to reconciliation and recognition of First Nations peoples. B, resolves to include the Australian national flag in all official Albury City email signatures alongside the existing flags to 1, demonstrate pride in our shared Australian heritage and national identity. 2, recognise the Australian national flag as a unifying symbol representing all Australians. 3, align with national protocols that encourage the respectful display of the Australian national flag in official communications. And C, directs the Chief Executive Officer to update the Council email signature template to incorporate the Australian national flag, ensuring consistency across all departments.
Thank you. Councillor Bullman.
Happy to second it, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. Councillor Bukowski, do you wish to open debate?
I do. Thank you. I think it's really important that we note that this motion for me isn't about diminishing reconciliation, nor is it stepping away from the really important work of recognising First Nations Australians and continuing efforts towards closing the gap. I support reconciliation and I support respectful recognition, and I support continuing meaningful conversations and actions that do strengthen relationships across our community. As councillors, we represent people whose families have lived here for generations. We also represent Aboriginal Australians who have lived here for thousands of years. We represent migrants who came to Australia seeking safety and opportunity and a better life for their families. And we represent people who have recently become Australian citizens and proudly call this country home. And despite our different backgrounds and stories, there is one symbol that unites all of us as Australians, and that is the Australian flag. The Australian flag doesn't belong to one group of Australians, it belongs to all of us. It's the flag under which Australians have served, have sacrificed, and in many cases lost their lives. For so many people, it represents courage and resilience and democracy and freedom and the shared opportunities that we are so incredibly fortunate to have in this country. I don't believe that it's unreasonable or divisive for the Australian national flag to be included in the official communications of an Australian council, particularly when this motion isn't taking anything away. We're not removing acknowledgement, we're not removing recognition, we're not diminishing the importance of reconciliation. We're simply saying that the national flag of Australia should also be represented alongside the existing flags in council email signatures. And to me, that reflects inclusion, not exclusion. I also note and acknowledge the CEO's note that national flag protocols don't mandate inclusion of the Australian flag in every communication, but equally, those protocols don't prevent council from displaying the Australian flag in official communication should they choose to do so. And I believe that there is value in doing so. And for me personally, when I send an email as a councillor, I want every member of this community receiving that email to feel represented, whether they were born here, whether they've migrated here, whether they've served their country, or recently, even today, became citizens. The Australian flag belongs to them too. And this motion is about adding a symbol of shared national identity, not subtracting recognition from anybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any further speakers for or against? Councillor Hudson speaking against.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. Just this weekend, I attended a forum that was organised by some incredibly courageous young people with lived experience of mental health crises. Councillor Baker was there, so he can back me up on this. I was brought to tears by their testimonials of the extreme struggles that they've faced, in no small part because of the lack of dedicated paediatric or adolescent mental health beds anywhere in our region. Young people in acute distress are being sent away from their families and support networks because those services simply don't exist here. Now, I appreciate this is not a local government issue. It's not something that we have control over, but it is a real issue that affects real people in our community. For the people that I talk to as a counsellor and in my work as a nurse, this is the sort of issue that keeps families up at night. And so I can't help but contrast that with the fact that tonight we're spending our time debating the arrangement of flag images in an email signature block. I want to address what I think is the deeply flawed premise underlying this motion. The motion states that the Australian flag should be added to demonstrate pride in our shared Australian heritage and national identity. I don't think there's anything in our existing email signature which ever suggested a lack of pride in Australia or our national identity. Nothing about recognising the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples diminishes the Australian identity. Nothing about acknowledging the oldest continuing cultures on Earth somehow weakens our shared national story. So I reject the false dichotomy that sits underneath motions like this, which is that any targeted recognition of First Nations people must be balanced by broader national symbolism, as though somehow recognition itself is excessive or oppressive in the opposite direction. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags were not included in our council email signatures by accident, as Councillor Baker pointed out. They've only been there for a couple of years, and they were included deliberately following consultation with our Aboriginal community as part of our reconciliation journey. They exist there for a specific reason, not because Council forgot Australia exists, not because our staff are unpatriotic, not because anyone lacks any pride in this country. They're there because Aboriginal people have been systematically excluded and marginalised for generations, and reconciliation requires deliberate acts of recognition and inclusion. You could very easily argue that this very particular act of reconciliation is tokenistic, and I'd agree with you, but that would ignore the fact that it exists as part of a broader suite of actions from our Reconciliation Action Plan. So equity will not be achieved by insisting that every targeted act of recognition be reframed into something broader and perhaps more comfortable for more people. Personally, I think our First Nations heritage should be a source of enormous national and local pride. The CEO's advice makes clear that this motion is not required under flag protocols. Our existing signatures are fully compliant. The Australian flag is already prominently and appropriately displayed throughout civic life in our city. It's outside our public buildings. It's in our chambers. It's on the enormous flagpole down at Australia Park. It's at ceremonies, it's at community events, and it's on official materials. So I don't think that this motion is solving a real problem. And I think that there are many people in our community who are increasingly exhausted by these sorts of culture war debates. To conclude, I can't help but reflect on the Wiradjuri concept of Yindyamarra. I certainly don't pretend to be an authority on it. I'm not a First Nations person myself, but my understanding is that Yindyamarra is often translated to respect, but it actually means much more than that. It speaks to moving thoughtfully through the world, acting with care, taking time to listen, showing humility, prioritizing relationships and community well-being over conflict and point scoring. And so I think that whether they know it or not, our community is actually crying out for more Yindyamarra in public life. And I just don't believe this motion achieves that. And so for those reasons, I won't be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Hudson. Councillor Baker, are you speaking for? It's green.
Can I speak?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're speaking
thank you.
for the motion or?
Well, in a manner, I'm wanting to move an amendment so I could push against or for, but
Okay, yeah. And what is your amendment?
well, when we spoke at the start of the, what's it called? Not, I'll tell you what it's called.
Public forum?
No, sorry. The opening affirmation, sorry. where we say, may our efforts be blessed with insight, wisdom and common sense. I'd like to defer this motion for reflection, feedback from a full meeting of the Aboriginal Advisory Committee, and for the full complement of councillors to be present. I can't see any value in going down this track tonight and getting a decision one way or another without all councillors. And if I can get a seconder, that's what I'll move.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Be a second. Thank you.
Councillor Baker, did you wish to speak to that? I think you've already spoken, but did you wish to speak to your amendment?
I would a little. I think this is a bigger decision than just agreeing to what on the surface seems like a perfectly reasonable thing to add to our email signature. But I think there's a lot more other meanings involved, other people affected, and I'd really like to learn more, understand more, and certainly hear from our Aboriginal Advisory Committee, because it was through that committee that we ended up with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander signatures on our emails. So without that feedback, it's a very difficult decision to make, and hopefully we can nip this in the bud tonight and save it for another day.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan, there are no speakers. Did you second that?
I did second already,
To
but
speak
I
for the
do.
amendment?
I
There
do.
are no speakers against.
no, but I would still like to speak for
Yeah.
it if that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your amendment this evening, Councillor Baker. It makes absolute sense. I know we received a CEO's note saying that there had been a meeting, but I really think, you know, Trish, you've done the work of council. I think there was the 3 or 4 people who'd met. We have an Aboriginal Advisory Committee for a reason. I attend those, as does Councillor Baker and Mayor Mack, and the work that group do is insurmountable, and the wisdom that they provide to Albury City Council should absolutely be taken on in its fullest. And thank you for reaching out to near 70, 80 odd people, perhaps even more, Trish, but I think those conversations have been started in community, and I think by the time they meet next Wednesday, I believe, I think there's a really important opportunity to be had with our Aboriginal community and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community. Thank you. I hope other councillors can support.
Thank you. Speaker against the amendment, Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. As I speak against the amendment, because I think we should be dealing with this tonight. I don't see why people have spoken, said it's a symbol, it's on the bottom of an email. Why would we want to put this off? Let's just deal with it and move on. The reality is that whether it be seen as a symbol or a flag, it's not exclusive. It's not divisive, it's inclusive. Councillor Hudson talked about respect and Yindyamarra meaning respect. Yes, respect is two-way. It needs to be reciprocal. Respect is not just one way. So we either have no flags, is my view, or all the flags. And I too, like Councillor Baker, recall having joined council when what Councillor Baker described as a flower was actually the paddle steamer wheel. It was a representation of a paddle steamer wheel because Albury City's logo was a paddle wheeler. And it's a significant part of, you know, a part of the history of Albury. And that was the symbol that had been used for decades. So either my view is that we deal with this tonight, we move on. We've had people saying tonight that it's relatively insignificant. We should be dealing with bigger picture things. We had a speaker tonight telling us about the difficult situation from a couple of years ago at a film festival. There's all these extra things going on. Why not just make a decision tonight, deal with it and move on? I do not believe that this is trying to exclude anyone. I don't think it's disrespectful, as has been made mention tonight by someone, it might have been Councillor Baker, that there are flags around the city. I'm not sure if it was you, Councillor Baker. There are flags around the city. We've got Australian Union Jack flags. We've got the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags in various places around the city. We've got them here in the chamber. So either we add another flag to that email signature block, or we take them all away, is my view. And I want to deal with this tonight so that we can make it happen, move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speaker 4 to come, but a question from Councillor Callaghan.
Just some clarification, if I can, from staff member. I believe the previous motion was about adding a flag, not removing all flags completely. Was that correct? Or did I misunderstand that?
Ms. Evans-Barr.
Thank you for your question. Through you, Mayor Mack, that's correct. It was either the addition of the Australian flag or remaining as the status quo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking for the amendment, Councillor King.
I did read in the report that it had the support of the advisory committee, so that sits uncomfortably with me, the fact that they haven't met fully. Hearing the words from one of our speakers talking about the breakdown of trust with Aunty Edna and 15 elders, I just feel there is no rush. So having time to think about that, I think that that's a sensible and prudent approach. And I know there are different arguments about nipping things in the bud, but I don't think we can underestimate, as has been spoken, the deep spiritual and cultural significance. So maybe there's a compromise, maybe there's a way forward, maybe flags, the acknowledgement of country is left as is, maybe 3 flags are put in a different place. There may be some options that we can work through where everyone is quite comfortable. So I'm sort of happy to support that approach.
Thank you. Question from Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you to the most relevant member of staff. Tonight, at least one person made reference to there is no protocol requirement to have the Australian flag as part of the email. Can I clarify, is there any protocol requirement for us to have the other 2 flags as part of the email signature block?
Ms Evans-Barr.
Thank you for your question through you, Mayor Mac. There are national Australian flag protocols that are given through the Department of Premier and Cabinet. Minister and Cabinet, I should say. There's a requirement for, if the Australian flag is included, there's a requirement for the Australian flag to be of prominence or in a position of respect. There's no requirement in this particular instance. What we're talking about is the acknowledgement of country, and therefore there is no requirement for the Australian flag to be present within the acknowledgement of country.
Pardon? Yes.
Thank you. So there's no protocol requirement for the Australian flag to be present in our signature block, but if it were, it needs to be in a prominent position. Is there a protocol requirement for either the Aboriginal and or the Torres Strait Islander flag to be part of our signature block?
Well, my understanding, Councillor Glacken, that it was one of the RAP recommendations out of 52 that were put before the previous council and agreed on, and that then brings it back into the chamber because this council had an agreed position as a result of the reconciliation plan to do that. It's not a national or state requirement. It's something that was determined in the RAP that was created by the council.
Thank you. So to clarify, there is no requirement for those flags to be part of that acknowledgement either.
Well, it was part of the agreement that was included.
So there's no requirement, it's our decision as council.
It's the decision made by this council previously, yes. Speaking for Councillor Hudson, speaking for the amendment, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. While I don't really personally believe that we do need to put this off, I think we can just vote down the original motion this evening. I do thank Councillor Baker for his suggestion. I guess in the spirit of nothing about us without us, I think it would be proper for us to consult with the full Aboriginal Advisory Committee and so I can support this amendment to defer.
Thank you. There appears to be no further speakers for or against. Question, Councillor Callaghan.
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify what I said before. Just in case it is written down somewhere that I said, I think it's next Wednesday, the Aboriginal Advisory Committee. It's actually next Tuesday, the 26th of May from 4 till 6. I just don't want to create any confusion. I was unsure of the date. So for clarification, no, it's not a question. I was just clarifying what I said. Thank you.
For the press.
For the press.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, there appears to be no further speakers for or against or questions. Councillor Baker, did you wish to close debate on your amendment?
No, thank you.
Okay. So with that, council, we're voting on the amendment. Those voting for the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I think we should, the amendment should be voted for. So I'm voting for the amendment to be deferred. Being the chair of the committee, I feel it is important to get the full understanding from the committee about their position on this issue. So the amendment is carried, becomes the motion. Councillor Baker, did you wish to close debate on the amendment?
Really quickly, which is now the motion.
Okay. Councillor Bukowski, just 1 minute. Councillor Baker, I believe Councillor Bukowski has the right of reply in terms of closing the motion, but it's a very confusing process.
I
The original motion.
The original motion.
Yeah.
Even with the hand.
Does it what? Well, it's become the motion. I would have thought that the person moving the amendment closes the.
Interesting.
We probably need to detail when we're deferring the motion to. Do we need to detail when we're deferring to? Just with that.
Bukowski, there is a right, you have a right of reply to the success of the amendment. Did you have a right of reply in relation to the amendment being now?
No, that's democracy.
Thank you. Okay, I'm happy. The motion is carried and we'll move on to the next motion. Thank you, councillors. CM 10.2, it's been put. Yes. It's been put. You want to put it again? Okay. Yep. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, council, we need now to put the.
For reflection and to enable feedback and consultation from the Aboriginal community at their next meeting.
Okay.
So it's thinking more about the motion. It's been.
Yeah. So it's now your motion. So you wish to change it? It's changed. Yeah. Yeah. So in the B though, that has its own issues too, with all councillors present. You've got no if.
Could be an absentee.
That's right. So.
You could move B.
Just at the next council.
Okay, we'll remove B.
Yeah.
I get your point, but it should be probably the next meeting of council, given the meeting with the RAP is on Tuesday. Yeah. At the next meeting, at the next council meeting. Yep, beautiful. Thank you. Okay, now we're putting that motion that Council A defer the motion reflection and feedback from a full meeting with the Aboriginal Advisory Committee at their next meeting, and then consider this motion at the next council meeting. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Okay, we're up to C 10.2, fostering a welcoming, inclusive and safe community. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. I move that Council A reaffirms Albury City's commitment to fostering a welcoming, inclusive and safe community where people of all backgrounds are respected, valued and able to participate fully in community life. B, recognises the responsibility of elected representatives to actively foster a culture of inclusion, connection, respect and belonging, and to lead by example in both words and actions. C, notes that this commitment is reflected in Council's adopted strategic and policy framework, including the Towards Albury 2050 Community Strategic Plan, Reconciliation Action Plan, Multicultural Plan, Disability Inclusion Action Plan, Early Years and Young People's Plan. And D, acknowledges the ongoing work of council staff, community organisations and volunteers in delivering initiatives that strengthen social inclusion and community connection across Albury, noting that this work requires sustained resourcing and coordination.
Thank you. Second, thanks. Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson, do you wish to speak to that?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor Mack. As Wiradjuri elders like Auntie Edna teach us, the Murray River was never meant to be a border. It was a gathering place for First Nations people. Since then, waves of immigration have built and shaped this community, and that's celebrated in places like Bonegilla and at our Library Museum. But our history of welcome isn't just a past chapter, because as our presenter has reminded us tonight, it's very much an ongoing responsibility that we have today. I myself moved here from Albury. I myself moved here to Albury from Sydney about 12 years ago. And what I found was a community that welcomed and included me. But inclusion is not automatic, it's intentional. And I was reminded of this recently during the by-election when I was speaking to the father of a young man who is a celebrated volunteer in our community, and he is a Muslim. Due to the rhetoric of the campaign, this young man had asked his father if he would ever truly belong in this community. And that question is devastating to me, and it's the one that drove my intent in driving this motion, in moving this motion. Albury is a diverse community. We know that over 2,000 First Nations people call it home. We know that nearly 10% of households use a language other than English when they're at home. But diversity is about more than just cultural background alone. Our community includes people living with disability, younger people, older people, people from different faith backgrounds, LGBTQIA+ people, single parent families, homeless people, people from many different socioeconomic circumstances. And that diversity is not a challenge to overcome, it is one of our strengths. But strong, cohesive communities don't emerge from diversity alone. They are built intentionally through inclusion, respect, accessibility, and genuine belonging. And that's work that takes time and effort, and it can be undone very easily through thoughtlessness. What this motion does is it reaffirms the values that Council has already committed itself to through numerous adopted strategies and plans. The Albury City Community Strategic Plan speaks about creating a caring, inclusive and sustainable community. Our Reconciliation Action Plan reflects a commitment to meaningful reconciliation with First Nations people. Our Multicultural Plan recognises the value and the contribution of people from diverse cultural backgrounds. Our Disability Inclusion Action Plan acknowledges that accessibility and inclusion require active work, not just passive goodwill. And our Early Years and Young People's Plan recognise the importance of creating environments where young people feel safe, valued and connected. These documents are not symbolic window dressing. They represent deliberate commitments made by this council on behalf of the community. And I particularly want to acknowledge the enormous work undertaken by staff, volunteers and community groups across our city, like STARTS, for example, to make inclusion tangible and real. Whether it's multicultural events, disability access improvements, youth programs, reconciliation initiatives, community development, None of this simply just happens. It takes planning, it takes coordination, labour, both physical and emotional, funding and sustained effort over many years. So I commend this motion to my fellow councillors.
Thank you. No speakers against. Speaker for, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I think it's important that we recentre ourselves on what genuinely matters. Building a community where everyone feels welcome, respected, and to Tika's point, safe and able to fully participate in the community life that we lead here in Albury. This motion reflects the very best of local government. Instead, it is a reaffirmation of the values that many in our community hold deeply, which are inclusion, respect, belonging, and connection. Importantly, this motion recognises that inclusion is not passive. It requires leadership from all of us. It requires intention. I particularly support the recognition of Council's adopted plans and frameworks within this motion towards Albury 2050, Community Strategic Plan, our Reconciliation Action Plan, our Multicultural Plan, Disability Inclusion Action Plan, and our Early Years and Young People's Plan. These are not documents sitting on a shelf. They reflect years of consultation, collaboration and work with community members who want Albury to be a city where diversity is embraced and people feel genuinely a sense of belonging. This motion also rightly acknowledges the enormous contribution of council staff, volunteers and community organisation who undertake this work every single day, often quietly and without recognition. So thank you. And importantly, my throat's sore. Importantly, this motion recognises that this work requires sustained effort and resourcing. Inclusion does not happen accidentally, and strong communities, as Jeff said, are built deliberately. Motions like this matter because they reaffirm the kind of community that we aspire to be. A community where people of different cultures, faith, backgrounds, abilities, identities, experiences can coexist respectfully and, to Meg's point, fully. I'm happy to support the motion. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Speaker against the motion, Councillor Bukowski.
Thank you. So I don't disagree with the broad sentiments contained within the motion. I think every councillor in this chamber wants Albury to be welcoming and inclusive and safe. Every person here wants residents to feel respected and valued and able to participate in community life. And importantly, the CEO's note does make it clear that council is already doing this work. The report outlines extensive existing strategies, policies, such as the Community Strategic Plan, the Reconciliation Action Plan, the Multicultural Plan, the Disability Inclusion Action Plan, the Early Years and Young People's Plan, and the report further states that council's day-to-day operations, their service delivery and community engagement activities are already grounded in values of respect, inclusion, safety and participation. So I think it's really reasonable to ask, what exactly does this motion seek to change? Because after reading the motion and the accompanying operational advice, I'm still left fairly unclear about its practical purpose, its intended outcomes, and what it actually requires of councillors or staff beyond what they're actually already doing today. And that does concern me. Good governance requires clarity. When council adopts a motion, particularly one dealing with broad social principles and behavioural expectations, there should be a very clear understanding of what the motion means operationally, what problem it's trying to solve, and what practical effect it's going to have. And I don't believe that clarity does exist here. I think the language is extremely broad. Concepts such as fostering inclusion and leading by example and connection and respect and belonging, they're all values that as councillors we're going to support. But without definitions or boundaries, those concepts can become highly subjective, and that is where my concern genuinely lies. Because once broad and undefined expectations are formally adopted by council, there is always going to be the potential for differing interpretations in the future. Today, this motion may appear symbolic. However, tomorrow it could potentially be relied upon as a basis for expectation around speech or conduct or decision-making or ideological alignment that was never clearly articulated to councillors or the community in the first place. I think that motions of this nature can have unintended consequences, particularly when drafted without precision or clear operational intent. And this can create ambiguity about how it can be later interpreted or applied. And it's for these reasons that while I do support respectful communities and inclusion and community participation, I won't be supporting this motion because I don't believe its intent, application or necessity has been clearly established in this instance. Thank you.
Thank you. Another speaker against, no speakers for, but a question. Councillor King.
Wondering if Councillor Hudson might consider an amendment removing B and potentially in D, finishing it at the word connections across Albury, because then I think that following sentence, noting that this work requires sustained resourcing and coordination, I'm just fearful that we do have a budget process and sustained resourcing could be interpreted as that we have to find funding for lots of programs because part of this motion acknowledges that it needs sustained resourcing and coordination. So I'm just a little nervous about the wording of that with our financial sustainability issues, notwithstanding the importance and the acknowledgement of the great work. And at this point in time, I'm just nervous that the wording of that might sort of bind us somehow to funding things to a level that perhaps we're not able to. In relation to B, I just find that the tone of it is it doesn't sit well with me because I think we do our affirmations every time we're in council meetings. We've just had a citizenship ceremony where we had 5 councillors present, and we might not all post what we're up to all the time, but I do think that our council group and councillors are out in community living those values. Otherwise, I don't think we would have been elected. So those are my concerns, but just putting it out there for consideration.
Councillor Hudson, your thoughts?
Look, I thought I made the intent behind the motion clear when I spoke for it. There is a significant power that we as elected representatives have to make people feel welcome and included in our community through our words and through our actions. That is the intent of this motion, because we are living in troubled times. I think it's undeniable that we're in a period where there is heightened divisive rhetoric in our politics and in our community. So with that in mind, no, sorry, I'm usually relatively happy to try and work to find a compromise. But in this case, I think that I would like the motion to remain as I wrote it.
Councillor King, do you wish to propose an amendment in that case as it sits on the screen?
Yes, I would.
The amendment was there previously. That amendment? Yep.
Thank you.
Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Thanks. Doesn't appear to be any seconders for that amendment.
Seconded.
That's okay.
No, happy to second that.
Yeah, you had the red light on, Councillor Blackman.
Yeah, absolutely, and I will speak against, but I'm happy
You
to
to
second
second the
it
amendment? Thank you.
for Councillor King's opportunity to have debate.
Thank you. Councillor King, you have spoken, but I'm happy to hear you reaffirm that.
Yes, you're right. I
debate.
probably did engage in debate.
No, I think it was good to give some clarity, and I think that's important. So if you wish to frame it into a debate, that's fine.
No, look, and I do acknowledge Councillor Hudson's reaffirming, and his intent with that. And I think it's, it makes you quite proud that we work as a team to be a welcoming, inclusive and safe community. So I think the intent of his motion is great. It was just a few elements in there didn't sit well with me in the way that it was written in terms of the tone. It almost implied that councillors weren't engaged in being inclusive, and yeah, it was just the tone of B in particular, and also a reference, yeah, to the budget concerns that I was a little nervous about. That's all.
Thank you. Any other speakers for? Are you speaking against or for the amendment or against the amendment? Against the amendment?
Against the
Yep.
amendment or the motion? Both.
Against the amendment at this point.
I'm speaking against the amendment and by default also the motion.
Okay.
Thank you. I too wonder why it is we have this motion before us tonight, because it really is, from the notes I made last night as I was reading our documentation, was why and to what end do we have this motion? And Councillor Hudson has explained that during the by-election period, he came to some realisation as to why he was on council. That's great. I'm really pleased for Councillor Hudson, but I don't think I need to sign up to this because I'm already on this page. I'm already a supporter of Albury and our region, long-term supporter, big picture, all of the documentation and all of the reports that we see and deal with on an ongoing basis, remembering that I have been on council for many years and we serve our community. So I cannot support this motion or indeed the amended motion because this is what we do. This is really a nothing motion. It's simply wrapping up all the stuff that we do. It's really a motherhood and apple pie motion. I cannot support the motion because this is what we do. And if this was a motion, a report that had been put forward by our staff, it would be receive a note. So I would be happy to receive a note, an acknowledgement as this is what we are about as council, having had realisation by Councillor Hudson that this is what he's acknowledging. Happy with that. But I cannot support that we have a nothing motion about what we do on our daily basis. Most of the work is done by staff. We as councillors oversee the work of council. We make those ultimate decisions and we direct the work that is done by our staff through the General Manager. It is about the bigger picture. Those documents that are listed, that's the bigger picture. The Albury 2050, that used to be the Albury 2030. That's why we are here, and we are here because our community elected us to do this work. So I cannot support this motion or indeed the well-intentioned amendment because that is what we do. Thank you.
Question from Councillor Callaghan.
Two questions, Mayor Mac, to the most relevant staff member, if I might.
Yeah.
Councillor King mentioned, balancing our budgets, and from the motion, what I can see, it's reaffirming what we've already done, committing to what we've already endorsed and acknowledging the ongoing work. So I just have a question. What is the cost of this motion? Because I can't quite encapsulate that, considering we've already endorsed all of these and everyone's working diligently on them.
Who do you wish to speak to that? Ms. Evans-Barr.
Thank you for your question through you, Mayor Mac. The cost, as it's noted there, I mean, there's costs that are associated with the strategies, policies and frameworks that are listed up on that screen. We would have to take that question on notice if we were going to go on.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
What's the additional cost, I suppose, is what I'm getting at. Like, we're already doing the work. Is there any additional cost?
Ms. Evans-Barr.
Thank you for your question through you, Mayor Mac. There's no additional cost as such that's there. It would be about whether or not there were forthcoming changes through budget that would require amendment, or maybe meant that there was a constraint in budget moving forward, and that would be unknown at this point.
Thank
Speaking
you.
for or against.
And a follow-up question, if I may?
Just one.
Sure, follow-up question.
No, it's not.
Thank you, Gail. Evans.
You want to speak to this one?
Just
For or against?
I think just to make it clear, what Miss Evans-Barr has said is quite correct. However, obviously with the date on some of those plans, Mayor Mac, they will be the subject of review. And I can't predict, and I don't think any staff member could predict what that review might throw up in the way of additional actions or reviewing the actions that are in those plans and strategies.
Thank you. So just ascertaining that there's no additional at the current time. But Sarah, my follow-up is this asking staff to do additional work or add to their already busy workload?
You? Yeah. Ms Evans-Barr?
Thank you for your question through you, Mayor Mac. No, there's no additional work that is involved in this. The plans and policies that are and frameworks that are listed there are, as our interim CEO rightly reflects, they are either due for review or currently being progressed through review and already on agendas for forthcoming meetings as well. So that work is already underway as required.
Comfortable?
Yes.
Thank you. Just one question, and to Councillor King's point, it says in the D, and community connection across Albury, noting that this work requires sustained resourcing and coordination. That's in terms of the service delivery framework. Isn't that in some way having an expectation that that's one area of our business we shouldn't withdraw from? I think that's really where it's getting lost here in the definition. It's actually committing us under our service delivery framework to continue to do what we're going to do with all the plans that we have, and we're the king of having policies and plans, and these are important. But don't you agree that that is all really what is the contentious point here?
Thank you for your observation through you, Mayor Mac. When I look at the plans and the frameworks that are listed there, they're legislative requirements of council, and therefore I can't see any shift in relation to the requirements of our work in particular for those. But if you're going to speak to sentiment of the motion more broadly, it could be observed that perhaps it is restricting us to, or making a commitment that we would be required to honour moving forward. And that's why I say, as the interim CEO did, we're noting that we're going through a period of budget and reflection, and that may need to be reviewed.
Thank you. Okay, there appears to be no more other speakers for or against the amendment. Councillor King, did you wish to close?
No, thank you.
Okay, so we'd just be clear, councillors, we're voting for this amendment at the point. Those for the amendment? Those against? The amendment is lost. Okay, we're reverting back to the original motion. Councillor Hudson, there appears to be no more speakers for or against. And I'd like to use this opportunity just to continue on from the process that was mentioned in the amendment. Also, a few of the speakers have raised this, that in my experience in this council, we have been one of the most inclusive, welcoming communities in regional Australia. We are a welcoming city, and we have it on our website, Embracing Diversity in Albury. It was initiated in one of our terms of councils. These policies also, which are born from state government requirements are also lived requirements of this council. And I, like Councillor King, do really take a little bit of umbrage to recognise the responsibility of elected reps. I do that. We all do that. And it seems to me that that is just, I find it quite insulting, to be honest, because I hold the ceremonies, as Councillor King has also as a former mayor, and as there are former mayors in this chamber. And we all welcome and foster and connect our communities. And I just don't think we should provide lip service to this motion, because essentially we're doing it. And I'm really concerned that we're confusing the rhetoric here, because our staff do a great job. And again, we acknowledge their work, but we want them to be sustained and coordinated. I just find the whole thing a little bit too ambiguous, and I just can't see myself supporting the motion, because B and D, whilst I didn't vote for the amendment, B and D are a little bit lopsided, and I just didn't sense that the chamber wanted to support the amendment, but I don't support the motion because of those reasons, because I think we already do it while we rehashing. Councillor Hudson, do you wish to close debate?
I will, thank you, Mayor Mac. Look, I am puzzled by debate. I do thank my fellow councillors for their contributions. You know, we have heard concerns. We're already an inclusive and welcoming community, one of the most inclusive. Okay, well then why wouldn't we want to acknowledge that? We've heard concerns about unintended consequences. I think there's some irony in that, given our previous motion that we were looking at. Concerns about why would we need to move symbolic motions again. I mean, you know, I think at the end of the day, all I was trying to all I intended to do with this was to recognize the incredible work that our staff do, that community organizations, that civil society in our town does to foster that sense of belonging and inclusion and safety in our town. I think if people have a concern with Part B, frankly, you're telling on yourselves then. All I really wanted to use was the platform that we have as councillors to say to our community, we are a welcoming and inclusive community. To that young gentleman who wonders whether he thinks he belongs here, yes, you do. So this motion was simply to reaffirm the long-term commitments that we've already made. And I guess I thank my fellow councillors for demonstrating this evening exactly why I felt we needed this motion in the first place. Thank you.
Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against?
I'd like mine noted. Thank you, Mayor Mac.
The motion is lost, and Councillor Callaghan would like a
Call for a
vote.
division.
I'll call for a division. Okay, those for the motion, Councillor Baker, Councillor Callaghan, Councillor Hudson, those against, Councillor Bullivan, Councillor Bukowski, Councillor Mack, Councillor Glackman, Councillor King. Motion is lost. Thank you, councillors. Okay, 11.1, 11.0, presentation deputations, there are none. CM12, reports, minutes, committees and working parties. Okay. Councillor Baker, did you wish to ask a question?
Just wondered if there may be time for a short intermission.
Absolutely. After that very vigorous debate, and you need to have a quick break. Right, I'm going to then. welcome everyone back to open council. We'll restart council after the adjournment. Reports, minutes of committees and working parties, 12.1 minutes of Les O'Brien Athletics Committee. Councillor Bullivant.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I recommend that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes of the Les O'Brien Athletics Precinct Advisory Committee meeting held on Wednesday, the 1st of April 2026.
Thank you. A second of thanks. Councillor Pekowski.
Wait a second.
Councillor Bullivant, I've got a question. Do you wish to speak to that?
Take the question first.
Okay, Councillor King.
Through you to the most relevant member of staff. Just, I noted councillors may have all received correspondence in relation to the car park, the steamers, the Hockey Albury Wodonga and the Athletics Club, some advice from a constituent saying that it's not safe at night or before or after training sessions, and the overflow of cars parking near the car park and the tennis club. Is that an appropriate item? Is it on there at the agenda of this particular meeting, or is that something in the broader context that we can have those discussions with community that have sort of raised some concerns?
Mr. Glass.
Thank you for the question, Councillor King, and through you, Mayor Mac. Council staff are aware of the concerns that have been raised. It's not addressed specifically within the scope of the Les O'Brien Athletics Precinct Advisory Group. However, Council, the City Landscape Cluster are leading a response to those concerns that have been raised.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bullivant, did you wish to open debate on that particular item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Mac. Just noting for other councillors' awareness that we recently had the Victorian Championships, Athletic Championships at Les O'Brien Fields, and it was well received, and the community has supported it, and the Athletics Hub supported it, and we had a really good result for the city, and there is talk about it coming back here again at some stage. So it's a pleasing thing that our athletic clubs got together and put on such a good show.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan, did you wish to speak for this particular motion?
Apologies.
Okay, there appears to be no more speakers for or against. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Thank you. We have the minutes of Floodplain Risk Management Committee meeting held on Thursday, the 16th of April 2026. Thank you, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you. Happy to move the recommendation that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes of the Albury Floodplain Risk Management Committee held on Thursday, the 16th of April.
Second of thanks. Councillor Bullivant.
Happy to second it, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan, do you wish to speak to that at all?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no further speakers for or against. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Okay, we're up to reports of committee and working parties. 12.3, report from the Infrastructure Planning Environment Committee meeting held on Monday, the 11th of May, 2026. Councillor King.
I move that council endorse the recommendations of the Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee meeting, inclusive of the closed session minutes held on Monday, the 11th of May, 2026 at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Councillor Gluckin.
Second.
Councillor King, do you wish to speak to that at all?
Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we move the motion, I'd like to confirm the motion from the closed session, the confidential matter, in open council, as it wasn't done previously. So IP 13.1 in those minutes, property strategy implementation. The motion was moved by Councillor Gluckin, seconded by Councillor Callaghan. The committee recommends to council that Council A dispose of the following properties for not less than market value as determined by an independent valuation report prepared by an accredited land value in accordance with Council's acquisition disposal of land policy. 466 Breen Street, Lavington, Lot 9, DP 23802. 19 Newman Nook, Lavington, Lot 45, DP 1158392. 566 Norris Street, Lavington, Lot 44, DP 1158392. and 622 Chance Street, Lavington, Lot 422 DP 1278587. B, delegate to the general manager or CEO or his delegate the role of negotiating the sale of the properties in accordance with the above and the execution of all relevant documents necessary to finalise the property disposals. C, authorise planning for the medium and long-term disposal opportunities identified in this report to be aggressed with further updates to be provided to council. D, establish an internal allocation within council's financial statements titled Property Strategy Implementation, and E, approve a budget variation of $50,000 to fund the costs associated with the property disposals. That particular item was carried. And then we had IPE 13.2, Property Strategy Implementation. Motion moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Glacken. The committee recommends to Councillor A, council invite expression of interest for the purchase and development of the property situated at 355 Kitelers Road, Lavington, being lot 182 DP 701 413, lot 16 DP 714912 and lot 40 DP 788591 on the security of purpose condition that any residential development on the land must incorporate a minimum of 10% of affordable housing, and B, a report be tabled at future meeting of council outlining the expression of interest received within the 6 months. That motion was also carried. So happy to put that those minutes now. Thank you, council. All those in favour? Anyone against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 13, documents to sealing. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you to move the recommendation as the motion that council authorises its seal to be affixed to the documents outlined below in the presence of two signatories authorised to affix the seal pursuant of Regulation 400 of Local Government General Regulation 2021 and the council seal and management of legal documents and advice procedure A, Albury City Council interest-free loan agreement to Melrose Football Club Incorporated 10-year interest-free. No, the 10-year interest-free loan for contribution towards the Melrose Park Sports Pavilion commencing May 2026. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Did you wish to speak to that, Councillor Glacken? No question or debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Okay, we're up to officers' reports for consideration. CM 14.1, development application 10.2025.41542.1 114 lot stage subdivision at 710 Riverina Highway, Thaguna. Councillor Callaghan, did you wish to open that? Thanks. Move that motion.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to remove the recommendation that Council A receives the contents of this report and B grants consent to development application 10.2025.41542.1 for stage 114 lot Torrens titled residence subdivision and associated works at lot 1 DP 1298683 at 710 Riverina Highway, Thaguna, subject to the conditions contained in the draft determination included at attachment 5 to this report, and C accepts the offer to enter into negotiation regarding a planning agreement respecting the provision of land constituting LRP 112 under the Thaguna-Warringah Precinct Structure Plan 2025, included as a condition in the draft determination included at attachment 5 to this report. Thank you, Mayor Mac.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. If that is indeed the recommendations we had in the report, happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. I have a question from Councillor Hudson. Happy to take that question.
Yes.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. Through you to the most relevant member of staff. The landscape plan for this subdivision appears to show 4, possibly 5 sort of connection points in the footpath network across the creek line, which is immediately adjacent to the transmission line easement. My question is, Are these indicative, or if the development, if approval is granted this evening, how strictly are they required to adhere to the plan? And the second question is, with these proposed crossing points across the creek line, do they have to adhere to accessibility standards? And would people riding a bike, for example, be able to use them?
Mr. Wilson?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor Mack. The material submitted with the application, including the landscape plan, was the material used to assess the application. So it's an expectation that the applicant will adhere to those plans. Notwithstanding that, any assessment at a more detailed level in terms of the subdivision work certificate may encounter matters which are not incredibly clear at the DA stage, and so things may require modification. If those modifications are substantive enough in nature, they will require an application to council to make that modification. In terms of the DDA compliance, it is an expectation of council which will be considered at the time the application for subdivision work certificate is made, to ensure that those pathways would be accessible.
Follow-up question?
Yeah.
So noting that there's a possibility for changes to be made at the subdivision works level, then how likely is it that it would be a reduction from, say, 4 or 5 connection points? It was a little hard to see on the plan, to 1 or none. The reason why I ask is because that's obviously a physical geographic barrier between that portion, the subdivision that we're considering now, and the earlier stages, which includes the major neighbourhood centre. And I think that active transport connectivity is vitally important through that area.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. And I'm just going to preempt Mayor. Go ahead.
Yep. Mr. Wilson, yeah.
Thank you for the question. I apologise for just launching into an answer to the question. So the expectation is that the applicant will be carry out development in accordance with their plans. I wouldn't like to speculate as to whether or not they're able to achieve all of those crossings. Certainly the expectation is that they should. As I mentioned earlier in response to the initial question, in the event that they don't, it's likely they would be required to modify their application, and at which point we would consider whether an alternative arrangement was acceptable or not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Councillor Glacken, you have a question?
I do indeed. Thank you very much. Through you to the most relevant member of staff, it is with reference to development description number 4 on page 25 of our documents. Creation of a balanced lot reserved for future primary or secondary school development. And when I look at the Spire attachment, the overlay maps, the original overlay maps, page 4, it's got an overlay of PS4 HS2 in lots 9 and 11. And I think it's actually larger than I think it's lot 11. I can't, just using my mind's eye from last night. Is that the case? And I note that there's a condition that the developer needs to check with the Department of Education that lot 11 is sufficient. But how will we know that the developer has done that? How will we know that it will be sufficient? Because it's less than my memory is it's less than the required size for a high school, but more than sufficient for a primary school based on the New South Wales government guidelines at present. So how will that play out? And my understanding from the original overlay that it was really land set aside for both a primary and a high school. So how is that correct, or am I wrong? If that was the case, why has it come down to one or the other? And how will we know whether or not the developer, I'm not expecting the developer will not do it, but how will we know that they have had those negotiations and we have the right land for the right school that the New South Wales government wants to put there. Thank you.
Mr. Wilson.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor Mack. So there's probably a two-part test here. The first is, as you will have read in the council report, we have been in discussions with the department, and the department has indicated that they don't object to the application proceeding its current form. In addition to that, you'll note we did discuss the condition as well, so they are well aware of the condition. The condition itself is a prior to subdivision work certificate condition, which means that the applicant can't proceed to commence works until such time as they've satisfied that matter. And that's by and large the key sort of threshold test, if you like. They simply won't proceed with development until such time as we have that confirmation from the department.
May I have a follow-up, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
Thank you. Notwithstanding that information, I understand over time things may change, move on. However, with reference to what was the original overlay plan for that area, it was originally a primary school and a high school. Where is that other school going to go? Is it going to go somewhere else, or have we lost a school? I'm just thinking this is a future city of 50,000 people, which we at, 15 years ago, we were 50,000 people of Albury, and we had a few high schools. So where will this other school go to, noting there is currently no high school in Thurgoona?
Mr. Wilson, I trust you have the answer to that.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor Mack. So much of the discussion has been with the department has been around the notion of what this potential facility looks like. All of those discussions have been, it's either a primary school or it's a high school. In terms of the material associated with the 2025 precinct structure plan, the interpretation was that it was either a high school or a primary school. So we hadn't considered both a two-school option, if you like. So we did consider a single school to be consistent with the plans.
Okay, so I've just misread those plans. It was either one or t'other, the overlay plan. Okay, I'm happy. I'm happy that I have misread it. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Councillor Callaghan, you haven't spoken yet, but you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I do. It's just in relation to the government school as well. And I suppose it's really to do with access. As you can see off Kerr Road, the road is quite large as you enter the development, and then it narrows down, and quite an unusual turning point right near the school. I'm just curious about long-term thinking around buses, cars, picking up, dropping off. And I understand there's Noble Road as well, but that's just abutting the ammunition storage facility. I don't know. Curious how all that will work, because it looks quite a small road.
Mr. Wilson.
Thank you for the question through the chair. Noble Road is identified in the current infrastructure contributions plan for a substantial upgrade. We have been collecting contributions toward that. My expectation, based on the currency of the infrastructure contributions plan, that will continue to occur, and at such time it's warranted, those upgrades will be made to that piece of infrastructure.
And just to follow up, if I may, so thus Noble Road would be the access to the government school rather than people going to the back of it?
Mr. Dawson.
Thank you for the question, and through the chair. In terms of access to the school, I'd imagine that Noble Road is likely to be the principal access. But, until we have a school design, that's speculation.
Did you wish to open debate while you've got the mic?
I do not.
Thank you. Turn on.
I do not want.
You don't want to make it?
No, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Speaking for Councillor King.
Just to, yes, supporting the motion, but also acknowledge that the strain that we have on our infrastructure. I think councillors will agree that we've noted that we've had to limit the development to a maximum of 40 I guess, lots until planned council infrastructure upgrades are completed. So it's that call that we send the mayor into state and federal parliaments advocating for funding, because without the enabling infrastructure for the sewer and the water networks, we're unable to assist government with meeting housing demand and helping to contribute to housing affordability. So just noting that we've had to actually put in that we can only have the 40 lots in this early stages until those upgrades happen. So it certainly highlights the pressures that are on not just Albury City Council, but councils in general. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King. There being no further questions or debate, Councillor Callaghan, did you wish to close debate?
No, thank you.
Have to put the motion as a division. All those in favour? Councillor Baker, Councillor Bullivant, Councillor Bukowski, Councillor Mack, Councillor Callaghan, Councillor Hudson, Councillor Blacken and Councillor King. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We're on the second motion. Second moment is 14.2, the Thurgoona-Willinga planning proposal. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. I move that Council A receives and notes the contents of this report, endorses the progression of the planning proposal to a gateway determination. C, endorses the progression of the planning proposal for exhibition in accordance with any gateway conditions. And D, endorses the progression of the draft amendment to Part 19 of the Albury DCP 2010 to public exhibition concurrently with the planning proposal.
Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second.
Councillor Hudson, do you wish to speak to that?
Just briefly, Mayor Mack, I support this recommendation, obviously, and I want to thank the staff for the enormous amount of work that has clearly gone into translating the vision of the updated precinct structure plan for Thurgoona and Willinga into actual statutory planning controls. I've previously been fairly critical of the old 2013 precinct structure plan because, in my view, while it articulated many good sort of aspirational goals, it didn't actually have the necessary statutory oomph behind it to actually make sure that it could be delivered. And I think that council has very clearly learnt that lesson. So what we're seeing here is a very tangible application of the precinct plan to ensure that it's actually embedded in our planning controls through things like rezoning, updated development standards, housing density controls, environmental protections, requirements for neighbourhood centres, movement networks and open space. And so I think this is exactly the sort of work that is helping us ensure that the growth that we do have and will have in Thurgoona is not just reactive or ad hoc, but properly planned with those that statutory and that planning backing. So which ultimately will deliver greater certainty for the community and for developers and for future councils. So I'm very pleased to support this.
Thank you. There appears to be no speakers for or against or any questions. I might just finish by suggesting that having been in council when we endorsed the first Thurgoona-Willinga strategy, it was a really sobering and exciting moment. But speaking from experience, I think it's 10 years on that one of my greatest disappointments is Diamond Drive and what happened in that precinct, because at the time of our approval, it was not intended for the current usage that it is currently experiencing. And prior to getting back onto council, I made that clear and put a submission in, but I look around and think we have a great opportunity as a council and with this corridor to create a lifestyle that is commensurate with the balance of environment and expectations of our growing and diverse communities. And I really think in some ways we should take a leaf out of other councils' books that have gone through a similar process. And I like to mention, and it'd be no, it doesn't really beguile me to mention it, but I think Wodonga with their Barrandoodle and Eva corridor seem to be doing a better job. They leave a lot of expanse for the green belt. They incorporate the green belt into the design, and there's an expectation of developers to actually have a spread, not a density model. And I'm not really comfortable personally with what's happening in the Thurgoona-Willinga area, because I think it's a future, and it's a wasted opportunity if we don't, as councillors and under the new LEP and DCP, absolutely demand that, because I think that really is what quality living is all about. And I think, again, it sets us apart from any other regional area. Like we don't want to look like Western Sydney. We've got an opportunity. We've got this wonderful plan, and I don't want this response I got back in the day that no, Councillor, that's only indicative. It's not prescriptive. And that was from a former planner, not you. But at the end of the day, I'm just really conscious of the fact that we've got a wonderful opportunity here, and we need to make the most of it. And I hope this councillor group have a look, get to see the formation of the LEP and the DCP, because I think if we don't balance the two together, and being the chair of the floodplain committee, I see the interferences of Woolshed Creek and 8 Mile Creek, and it's their environment. It's not ours. It's like the animals in our environment. We're in their environment, not ours. And we need to be respectful of that. And I just really would hope that we put pressure on the developers to include quality riparian environments where we've got quality retention bases, not just a dam with nothing around it, quality construct, and something that's value adds to living there. Because I think I get that this developer has come out saying we're going to do this, going to be different to everyone else, and I'm not certain. I hope they are, but I just think if someone sets the standard, then others follow. I just think we need to set that standard, and I think again this is our once in a council's lifetime opportunity, because we're building all the infrastructure. No point putting all the infrastructure there. What we get is a poor outcome. So thank you, Councillor Hudson, for moving the motion. Did you wish to close?
Just to echo your sentiments. Thank you, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. Happy to put the motion as division. All those in favour, Councillor Baker, Councillor Bulliman, Councillor Picard, Councillor Mack, Councillor Callaghan, Councillor Hudson, Councillor Gluckin and Councillor King. That motion is carried. Thank you. Okay. We're up to the 8 Mile Creek flood study review, public exhibition submissions. Thank you, Councillor Gluckin.
Through you to move the recommendation as a motion that Council A receives the notes of contents of the report, B acknowledges receipt of the submissions lodged, and C adopts the 8 Mile Creek flood study review, May 2026.
Thank you. Councillor Bukowski.
Yeah, happy to second.
Thank you. Councillor Gluckin, do you wish to speak to that?
Briefly, I do acknowledge the submissions that were made, and there were some concerns raised by people. Those have been reviewed and reviewed appropriately, properly, and considered, but the substantive report remains the report that we're dealing with tonight. So I wanted to make sure people knew that their submissions had been taken on board, accepted as submissions, but the report remains as it was. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gluckin. There appears to be no further questions or debate. Just as the chair of the floodplain committee, and having lived this particular study and the previous study we did on Bungaroo Creek and other Albury studies we've done, this particular study was thoroughly investigated by the consultants and interrogated by Water New South Wales and every authority. And I think the submissions, as you say, were quality submissions. But again, we need to be mindful of that environment, and we need to protect and preserve that environment as best we can, as well as allow that balance. So thanks to the consultancy and the team at Albury City that committed and created that report. It's a wonderful report. Councillor Gleick, do you wish to close debate?
To note that one of the absolute privileges that we have as a community of Albury is that we are on the Murray River. It is a most significant body of water that runs at the side of our city. Essentially, it sort of runs through the middle of our city because of our community of Albury-Wodonga. Because of that, we have a significant number of creeks and tributaries that run into that river. So whilst we are a footprint that is relatively small as a regional city council, we have a good number, a large number of waterways that run through our city. We need to make sure that those waterways are cared for appropriately. But we also need, as the Mayor explained, we need to balance that with the growth and development of our community. People want to come and live here in Albury. That's why we're growing. When they want to come and live here in Albury, they actually want to be able to either rent or buy a house. Ideally, most of them want to buy a house. Those houses have to go somewhere. So we need to ensure that well into the future, we manage that interaction, that development, and the ability of people to continue to want to come and live in our wonderful community. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Okay, we see 14.4, the March quarter budget review. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Gleichen.
Thank you. I'd like to move the recommendation as a motion that council adopts the revised budget estimates for 25-26 financial year.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Councillor Gleichen, did you wish to speak to
That'll be me.
I went through the numbers there.
That's all good. I wish to highlight, it's really there for noting, but I wish to highlight that there have been some improvements. Thank you to the staff for making that information available to us. I know it's your job, but I do appreciate that you do make that information known to us, and you describe it, or you provide that information in a way that we can understand. It's not just numbers. There's a summary dialogue that's provided with it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Gleichen. I too wish to share my sentiments with the staff. It's been a very challenging period for this council, and the change is happening, and certainly the improvement is noted, and you work really hard and your efforts don't go unrealised. So thank you. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Okay, 14.5, the draft social media policy and draft social media procedure. Thank you, councillors. Councillor King.
Happy to move that Council A endorses the draft social media policy, the draft social media procedure, the draft community guidelines, and the draft user-generated content guidelines. B, endorse that all draft documents are placed on public exhibition. And C, if no submissions are received seeking amendments, adopt the draft social media policy, the draft social media procedure, the draft community guidelines, and the draft user-generated content guidelines.
The draft. Councillor Bulford.
Happy to second that, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. Councillor King, did you wish to talk to those drafts?
Only to note that it is going to public for their feedback, and as the report has acknowledged, the digital space, the social media environment is changing constantly, and I think it's quite prudent that we do look at updating these policies and seeing what other feedback we might get from the community.
Thank you. Okay, happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Okay, we're at 14.6, the Albury City Media Policy. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Bullivan.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I move the recommendation that Council A endorses the draft 2026 media policy. B, endorse that the draft media policy is placed on public exhibition for a minimum of 14 days. And C, if no submissions are received, seeking amendments, adopt the Albury City 2026 media policy.
Thank you. Councillor Bukowski.
Seconding, thank you.
Councillor Bullivan, did you wish to speak to those drafts?
Thank you, Mayor Mac. This is just another procedural matter with is just adopting our drafts and keeping up with the modern times with our media and our social media policies. It's just a operational issue.
I thought, given your media profile, you may have spoken to that a bit more vigorously. Okay, no further debate or question. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Moving right along, 14.7, reappointment of Audit Risk and Improvement Committee Independent Member and Chair. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Councillor Bukowski.
Yes, thank you. I move the recommendation that council extend the existing independent ARIC member and chair contract for Stephen Coates for a further 1-year term concluding on 31 December 2027.
Thank you. Councillor King.
Happy to second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Bukowski, do you wish to speak to that at all?
Just briefly, I am the councillor delegate for the ARIC committee, and I do commend Stephen for his work. The whole ARIC committee do a wonderful job, including staff, and yeah, I'm more than happy to advocate for Stephen to continue on for a further 1-year term. Thank you.
Thank you. No speakers against. Councillor King, do you wish to speak for?
Just briefly to acknowledge some of the concerns raised in the public forum last week. Noting though that we have 3 of the 4 independent members due to conclude their terms concurrently, so I think it is wise to extend the chair's role for that 1-year term while we then have that rigorous process for appointing new committee members.
Thank you for that, Councillor King. Wonderful debate. Okay, we have no further speakers for or against. So just having not been here last week due to another engagement, having had a lot to do with the ARIC and understanding their independence, there's also a requirement that council provide the terms of reference for the respective ARIC committees at any given time, and Councillor Glacken would probably attest to this as well. And at any particular time, the council may feel the necessity for a particular investigation of certain areas of the business, whether it's work cover, whether it's a variety of different issues. But the reality is, they're only as strong as we want to make them, and there are restrictions because we are certainly delegated under legislation to do certain things under the Local Government Act, but more importantly, it's a very broad brushstroke, and at any given time, like currently we're looking at our service delivery and our budget, we could state those terms of reference to be more focused on that than other areas of the business, because there's a big business and there's a lot to do. So I just heard there was a bit of rhetoric about, well, what is it they do and what did they miss? And I find that a little bit disambiguous, because I think that they have a really big role, and at any given time, they are only beholding to the executive and this group to investigate what we ask them to interrogate. So just to clarify that, because I heard it from a speaker and I read the discussion, I thought, no, that's not accurate. So thank you. Councillor Glacken.
Yes, thank you. Through you to the most relevant member of staff. When I was the delegated councillor one of the 2 delegated councillors to ARIC, my understanding was that the role of the ARIC was determined by New South Wales Government, and it was their as the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. It undertook a number of investigations throughout the year. That was done by mutual agreement with Albury City Council. It was a regulatory body. It was not a body of council per se. It was a somewhat off to the side body that was not there to direct council, but to oversee the policies, the processes and the protocols to ensure that they met with the guidelines and to raise any concerns that they may have had. Can I have staff clarification that that is the ongoing remit of the ARIC as delegated or directed by New South Wales government for each local government area, each city council or each.
Mr. McGrath?
Yeah. Thank you for the question through you, Mayor Mac. Look, the simple answer in broad terms is yes, but if I can just expand a little bit. The Office of Local Government did issue updated guidelines to be put in place effective from 1 July 2025. My understanding is this council, along with many other councils in New South Wales, are delivering on those guidelines. The mandatory guidelines, they're not opt-in guidelines, if I can put it that way. And that sets out a terms of reference which guides how the ARIC committee performs its functions. In the context of looking at the financial results of council, they don't have direct oversight over the end of year financial reporting. That's the role for the external auditors. But they do have a role in doing let's call it a sense check, and I guess discussing it with the executive as to any results. I guess the other key role that they provide is oversight of any risks that emerging risks in particular that council may have. And there's through the regular committee meetings, the interim CEO in this case, or the GM, does provide an overview update report for the ARIC's consideration. The other thing is through the internal audit program, I believe we're in year 4, the final year of what was identified as a 4-year internal audit program. At the committee meeting only last week, the ARIC committee did consider the final year's proposed internal audits, and there was a minor amendment made to that based on the risk profile and emerging risks. And the intention moving forward is to ensure that the internal audit program as adopted strongly reflects council's risk register in those high risk service areas for early audit but through a prioritised approach. Now that does, once you establish it for the 4-year term, if you like, that doesn't mean it's absolutely locked in because things change, and it's about being agile and being able to address risks as they emerge.
Thank you, Mr. McGrath. Okay, Councillor Perkowski, do you wish to close debate on that item?
No, thank you.
Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, we're up to the operational reports for noting. Operational Plan Quarterly Progress Report, March 2026. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, to move the recommendation as a motion that council receives and notes the Operational Plan Progress Report, March 2026.
Thank you, Councillor King.
Peter, second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gluckin. Do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you. We're reporting on 3/4 of the way through our year. Thank you to the staff for the achievements to date. There's some at 75%, some below, and there's actually one above 75%. It's good progress, really, noting that, and I always say this, the work of council doesn't stop. It's an ongoing process. There are many components of Albury City Council, and to be able to try and keep all of those on track at any one given time is a feat in itself. Even reporting on each of these items is a feat in itself, let alone trying to keep them all on target. But it's good progress to date. Thank you for the update.
Thank you. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. 15.2, the Corporate Success Pillar Scorecard, March 2026. Councillor King.
I move that council receives and notes the Corporate Success Pillar Scorecard, March 2026.
Thank you. Councillor Callahan.
Happy to second.
Councillor King, do you wish to speak to that?
Only to note some really good outcomes there, including our sustainable finance, Albury City operating result better than original budget by fund, the delivery of our operational plan 100%, good governance health check is high as well, and lost time injury frequency rate is 0. So yeah, a few things there at a glance to see how we're tracking. So well done, team.
Thank you. There are no speakers for or against. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. 15.3, investment balances. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I'd like to move the recommendation that council receive and note the investment balances report for the month of April 2026.
Thank you. Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you.
Happy to second. Councillor Callahan, do you wish to speak to that at all?
No, thank you, Mayor Mac.
No further debate or questions. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. We're up to the delegates' reports for noting. There are none. Do we have any notice of urgent business, councillors? Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. Since the last meeting, I had the pleasure of attending the grand reopening of the Lavington Tennis and Pickleball Club on your behalf on April 26th. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate the club on their fantastic 6 new courts. So for those who don't know, they're on the corner of Urana and McDonald Roads in Lavington. And they've got 6 new pickleball courts, which have been largely funded through state government grant funding, but it is a council-owned facility, and they've done a fabulous job. There was over 200 people through the gates on the grand opening, and everyone seemed to be having a fantastic time from what I could see. And it's just a real credit to the club, and in particular, Shirley Allen and Leanne Hewitt, who worked for many years, very hard over many years to bring their vision to life. So yeah, congratulations to them. It would be remiss of me not to say they would really like a new club room, though. About the same one they've had since they moved there in 1950, I believe. But no, it's a great club. They're really moving with the times and meeting the changing needs of the community. And I hope everyone goes and checks it out.
Thank you, Councillor Hudson. I think it's great because yesterday I was at under 12s in the freezing cold AFL footy, and they weren't going too well, mate. Didn't score a goal, or a point, but at least though they're doing something other than looking at their devices, and pickleball is another way of doing that. Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. I omitted to ask a question in 15.1. It was written in my book, but I didn't have it on the screen. May I ask a question?
Why not?
Thank you very much. I must have missed something in some report or some minutes of perhaps the traffic meeting. Olive Street taxi rank. It is somewhat delayed. Can I ask, where is it moving to? My understanding is it's moving. Where's it moving to?
There's a lot of fingers going around up there. Ms. Leopold.
Thanks, Councillor Gluckin. Apologies, I'll need to take that one on notice if that's okay and circulate the response at the next meeting. Thanks.
Good answer. Okay, like the answer. And no other urgent business, councillors, so we have no confidential matters, and I close the meeting at 8:41. Well done, councillors, well done, staff, and we'll see you next time.